Hi everyone, Jennifer here, back with another edition of my comparison videos. Now, this video is going to be a comparison between a book and a movie I did a review on, and that book and movie are, of course, DragonLance, Dragons of Autumn Twilight. The reason I'm doing a comparison on this particular book and movie is because, as many of us know, when there is a book and a movie on the exact same story, sometimes there are details in the book and in the movie that don't mesh up. This, of course, is due to time constraint on the movie. The book, it can be a little bit longer than the movie, but the movie has to be a certain length, otherwise it will have to be broken up into multiple parts, and which is the case here. So we're just going to be I'm just going to be talking about some of the things that are very similar with both the movie and the book, and some of the things that are different, and then the things I liked about both of them. Okay, differences. For the book, the quests are longer. They draw the quests out a lot. But again, in a book, you're able to do that. You're able to add more details to the quests, like all like where they stopped, everything and whatnot. Where in a movie, you got to kind of compress everything down to save time. Okay, the characters' backstories are a little bit better established. This is very true with most things. Again, it all comes down to time constraint. In a book, you have a lot of time. You can make the book as long as you want, and as long as it's interesting, you will hold the reader's attention. And these books are actually very interesting. At least to me, they were very interesting. I got through this book relatively quickly, just by having not read it in a number of years. And I also got through the second and third one relatively quickly as well, because they were just, for me, they were so interesting that they were fast reads. But they do give the backstory on the characters, particularly the heroes, a little bit better. You know a little bit more of their backstory in the book. Again, which is something that, as a writer, I get. You establish your character's backstory so the reader can get a visual picture in their head of what this character looks like. Okay, the Lost City, that's Zaxxarath, or whatever it was called, I may be mispronouncing the name, and if I am, I apologize, was more broken. In the book, they describe it more as having multiple layers, and in more of a disarray, like when the fiery mountain or the asteroid collided with the planet, and which caused the cataclysm. I hope that's not too much of a spoiler for you guys. This was one of the cities that was basically destroyed, and rather than just how it looks in the movie, in the book, it's more like it fell. There are different levels, and some levels are more in ruins than others, and it basically broke apart and is scattered throughout this mountain area. So to me, it looks more like it's something that weathered a natural disaster in the book. Or at least that's how I pictured it in my head with the book. Okay, and the last part for the differences in the book, and this is true with a lot of the other DragonLance books, I've read quite a few of them, the elves' houses are carved from stone, mostly quartz, and they, as I picture them, they're these beautiful, like, quartz houses that kind of look like our houses to a degree, minus the garages and stuff, but, the multiple levels and the little rooms and everything, but it's all carved out of quartz and whatnot, and that's how I picture them in my head. And again, that's how they describe them in the book, is that they were made out of quartz, and there were these beautiful, lovely buildings, because elves love beautiful, lovely things, and they love nature and all that, at least the elves in the DragonLance story, and whatnot. And that's kind of the impression the authors get across to me, is how this beautiful city that Tanis grew up in. This beautiful hidden city located deep in this, in the woods that no human up until this point had ever seen, and the only non-elf that has ever seen it was Flint. That's how I picture this beautiful city. It's just these beautiful quartz streets and these beautiful pink quartz buildings and whatnot that just glitter when the sun hits them at the right angle, and it just looks so enchanting and beautiful and magical. Okay, movie. The quests are shorter. They do actually compress the quests down quite a bit, and they actually cut a few of the quests out of the movie. But again, this is all time constraint. They have to make this movie 2 hours. So they can't put every little thing from the book in the movie. They even cut some characters out of the movie that are in the book. And again, it's characters that I feel are kind of important, particularly if you read the other 2 books. There's this one character, and I hope I'm not spoiling the book too much for you, who is referred to as the Everman. And he is a very important character, particularly in the 3rd book, Spring Dawning, but we'll talk more about that when we get to Spring Dawning, I promise. But he's not in the movie at all. In fact, I watched the movie before I started reading the book again. I completely forgot about him. So I honestly, I feel like he was kind of an important character, because he does play a major role in the 3rd book for him to be left out of this movie, but we'll talk more about that more in a spoiler or in the 3rd book or something, I promise. Okay, we don't get a lot of backstory on the characters, but we do get enough to kind of understand where they're coming from. We just get more in the book. I'd have to actually rewatch the movie again, but I believe in the movie they don't even mention the circumstances of Tanis's birth, how his mom became pregnant with them, and his birth and whatnot. But in the book, they really do cover it a little bit to a degree, so you kind of understand what's going on with it. Again, I could be wrong. They could actually cover it in the movie as well, but I don't remember them bringing it up. I just remember them saying that he's half human and half elf, and him making the comment that the beard was the ability to grow a beard was the one good thing his human father gave him. But other than that I don't think they get too much into his backstory. They don't get too much into Strum's backstory. Strum, as he's talking about it, at the beginning of the movie, that he has his father's armor and his father's sword. His father was a knight, but he lived in Solace, or however you pronounce the little village where they all lived. Again, if I'm mispronouncing anything, I apologize. But it's how could this person who is the son of a knight be living in this little town, have grown up in this little town? It just doesn't make any sense. How does he not know who his father was? And they explain that a little bit better in the book than they do in the movie. The situation with Goldmoon and Riverwind, they don't really explain it that much in the movie as they do in the book. I mean, you get enough of the characters' backstories to kind of understand what the heck is going on with them and what's driving them. But the book just gives you so much more. Okay, the Lost City is a lot more rune-like. Again, I think this is more time consumption. They had to really compress it. They couldn't spend a lot of time with the friends, the companions, the heroes, whatever you want to call them, exploring Paxaroth, or Zaxxaras. Sorry, I mix up the cities every once in a while. Exploring this lost city, this forgotten city, this ruined city that is home to the dragon Onyx. They couldn't have them exploring it quite as much in the movie as they could in the book. In the book, they had time. They could stretch it out. They could have them exploring different layers, trying to figure out how the heck to get past this dragon, which, upon entering the city, they know is there. where in the movie they don't realize it's there till they enter the chamber where the discs are. So they don't spend a lot of time exploring the city. They really compress that city thing down a lot. They cover what they need to cover, the important stuff, but there's a lot more in the book that is not in the movie. Again, it's just time consumption. They needed to compress it down for the time that was allotted for the movie. Otherwise, this probably would have been a 2 to 3 to 4 movie set instead of just one movie. So they did compress a lot down. Okay, lastly, the Elven houses are literally in the trees. Like, in the movie, if you look at the cityscape of Chrysalis, I believe is how you say the name of this Elven city, or at least the Elven city where Tanis grew up. There's another one that's not really mentioned in the second book, but it is in the first book, but it is mentioned in the second book. But if you look at the cities, at the buildings in that particular, in this movie, they literally look like the elves took trees and hollowed them out and built their homes into these ancient trees, which is pretty. I mean, I liked how it looked in the movie. It looked really nice. It really showed that the elves live with nature. They're literally living within the trees and whatnot. It looks nice. But in the book, it's described as something completely different. So there is that difference there. Okay, what I liked about these, the movie and the book, and you're going to see some similarities here. Okay, book. I loved the characters. A lot of the characters were very, very relatable. My favorite was Tanis. He was like hands down my favorite character in this book. Now, in the whole series, I liked him. I liked Laurana. I liked Cobalt, who's a blue dragon, but we'll talk more about him when I do the review on Legacy of Steel. I liked a great deal of the Silver Dragons from the Lost Histories book, The Dragons. I liked Christina from Tears of the Night Sky. I liked Desra from Desra's Quest. There were a multitude of characters that I actually liked in the overall series. But from this particular book/movie, I liked Tanis. Now, in the trilogy, Dragons of Autumn Twilight, Dragons of Winter Night, Dragons of Spring Dawning. Tanis was one of my favorite characters. I also liked Laurana. She was another one of my favorite characters, but she doesn't really have a big role in this particular story. I mean, she comes in more in the second half of the book, in the second half of the movie. She has more of an active role in Winter Night and Spring Dawning. And we will talk more about that when I get to Winter Night and Spring Dawning, I promise. I mean, Tass is a little cutie too, but Tass tends to get himself into a lot of trouble. I think that has to do more with the fact that Kinders are extremely curious and they don't know fear, which, that's always a great combination. But, I mean, he's a little cutie. I mean, the way they described him in the book and the way he's animated in the movie, I mean, he's really cute. I mean, he comes off as like a very small elf. He's probably about like half the size of Tanis, but you can't help but not like Tass, basically. And Gold Moon and Riverwind, they're great in their own way. Basically, all the characters are great in their own way, but Tanis definitely stands out to me. I guess because he's struggled in the past, and I haven't read any others. Really backstory. I've read Kindred Spirits, which really gives you a lot of backstory on him, so I kind of understand where he's coming from a little bit more than the other characters, so I think that's why I like him a lot. But I mean that, like, he is my, like, in this particular movie, he is my favorite character. Okay, I loved the plot line. I mean, it's the basic fantasy adventure plot line. Group of unlikely heroes come together, they go off on an unassuming quest to find something of great power, and they have to keep it out of evil hands. But it's plotline wise, it's a great plotline. It's a wonderful plotline. The way they did it was just amazing. The quests, because there are several little side quests as well. I loved those. I mean, they are just so amazing and fun, and just seeing how it was done was just, like, the plot line, how they progressed through it was just amazing. And really, you see as you're reading the book, because we're just talking about the book right now, you really see even the people who join in later, like Riverwind and Goldmoon. Granted, they come in at the beginning of the book, but we're comparing like the friends who have known each other for 5+ years. Riverwind and Goldmoon, who are the newest members to the group. Gilthanas, who joins the group in the latter half of the book on a quest to Paxarath. Tika, who also joins them on their quest to Paxarath. They all look to Tanis as leader, and you see them do this. Even Gilthanas, who technically, as the youngest son of the Speaker of the Suns, who is literally the ruler of their little city, he is elevated above Tanis. He looks to Tanis for leadership. He understands. Tanis knows the world outside of Kostala, or whatever the name of the city is. And he looks to him for leadership. Laurana does too, but Laurana's more love-struck than anything at this point. So, while she does, I have to look at that more through the eye of, she loves Tanis, so that's kind of why she's doing that. You'll see a change in her late in the other books as well, I promise. And we will talk about that later on, I promise. Okay, movie, characters. I love the characters. The characters were probably one of my favorite parts about the movie. Again, favorite character in the whole movie, Tanis. Laurana's up there, but again, she's kind of at the point where she's still kind of this love-struck girl following the person she loves, who is Tanis, and wanting to get him to notice her. More than anything, she goes through a vast transformation in the second and third book, well, mostly in the second book. In the third book, they kind of just elaborate on it a little bit more. But we will talk more about that in Winter Night and Spring Dawning, I promise. I love the way they animated the characters. Not exactly how I pictured them in my head when I was reading the book, but still really good for animated characters, because I know they're trying to make compensations for everyone. It's because it's like not everybody's going to picture the characters all the same way. But still, it was amazing. Some of the designs I would have done a little differently with the characters. I felt some of them looked a little too universal. But again, they were trying to go universal, so to kind of please everyone, I believe. So, granted, yes, while I pictured them a little differently in my head than I did than they are portrayed on the screen, I understand why they did that. I didn't really picture Flint quite how they animated him. Tass was pretty much dead on how I pictured him. Same thing with Raceland. Caramon and Strum, I pictured slightly different than how they looked, but still, okay, I'll take how they looked. It still looked really good. I would have changed Strum's armor a little bit, made it more like King Arthur style more, but that's just, me, because that's just how I pictured him in the book. Tika looked how I pictured her. Same thing with Goldmoon and Riverwind. They basically looked how I pictured them. My main issue was Tanis and Laurana and Gilthanan, and if I'm mispronouncing any of the names, I promise, and Laurana and Gilthanan's older brother and their father. They looked good, animated-wise. They looked like elves, but I always pictured them in my head when I was reading the book a little differently. But again, that's just kind of me. Okay, the plot line. I love the plot line. The plot line of the movie was just amazing. Granted, it's your universal fantasy adventure plotline. But still, it was wonderful. I mean, they did follow the book pretty well. For leaving off some of the side plots and side quests and whatnot, they did a really good job of following the plotline in the book. The quests, really there's just the two, the one to the Lost City, and then the one to the fortress to rescue the imprisoned people. But they did a great job of, you know, establishing the two different quests rather than blending them together, even though they were somewhat connected. And they did a really wonderful job with that. And finally, the animation. The animation was just amazing in this movie. It was just so good. My one nitpick with the animation, and I am going to, you know, I do have to mention this. I did not like the dragons, and I did not like the draconans, or whatever the heck the dragon men were called. I just did not like how they were animated, because the whole movie, with the exception of them, was flat screen animation. It was two-dimensional animation. They were three-dimensional animation, and to see them interacting with flat screen animated characters just looked weird to me. It was like, okay, if you were going to do CG animation for them, maybe do CG animation for all the other characters. Or if you're going to do flat screen animation for all the other characters, do flat screen animation for them. Or again, if you're going to do CG animation for the dragons and the draconans, maybe do live action for everything else. Because it's just the flat screen animation against the CG animation just looked to me it looked very weird. It was like a mix of animation forms, and it just didn't look right to me. But that's really my only complaint on the animation. Okay, feel free to leave your comments and questions in the comment section. I do love to read those. Please like and share this video if you're watching on Facebook, or like and subscribe if you haven't already if you're watching on YouTube. And feel free to follow me on Wattpad, Tumblr, Instagram, and Twitter. I do have my name for those four sites right there on the screen, as well as the pictures I use for the icons. Please note that all pictures seen within this video do belong to their respected artists. I own absolutely nothing. And the links for the four sites I mentioned will be in the description section if that makes it any easier for you guys. Okay, quick reminder on my comment rules. Okay, feel free to check out my other comparison videos. And my other videos. Okay, before I sign off, just a few things I'd like to touch on. First off, Facebook friends, or YouTube subscribers. sorry about that. Any of my videos that are not on YouTube are on my Facebook page. I will have the link in the description section. Facebook friends. Same deal. Any of my videos that are not on Facebook are on my YouTube channel. The link for that will be in the description section. Okay, and anyone who's interested, you can feel free to check out my group on Facebook, Fanfic Corner. I will have the link for that in the description section as well. Okay, as always, thank you for watching, and have a very nice day.